I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars, and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Brian Koberger was arrested this morning at a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expecting to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel, and tonight we're going to get back into the Nancy Guthrie abduction. I think we're going on 2 weeks now almost, that she was taken from her home, not obviously against her will, and has been missing since. There's been a barrage of a lot of things that have happened over the last few days. We'll talk briefly on those things. And then, I think that with so much stuff that's gone down and so much stuff that's gone on, one of the things that, or one of the pieces of advice that I've often given when it comes to trying to, put some things together, so to speak, is to slow down, right? Typically, if you go too quick, you start following things, you start jumping to conclusions, then you start going down these weird avenues, and then you end up, possibly harming or making other victims out of a situation. And I think that that's probably a lot of what's been going on these last few days. Sorry, I haven't been on. I've been dealing with a couple of different headaches, and my back has not been the best. And so I'm going to try to push on, probably an hour tonight, maybe a little bit less. And so hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, guys. I'd appreciate it. All right. So let's slow down. Let's talk a little bit about what happened. So there was a SWAT team situation that went down on a house, not too far away from the Guthrie residence. And I believe a couple of people were taken into custody, or detained, and it sounds like no arrests were made. And I don't know if they've completely cleared anybody, but it doesn't sound like they have enough evidence to obviously make charges and hold somebody and charge somebody with a crime. And so we already know that they've kind of, they detained a guy named Carlos. He's come forward. He's spoken to the media multiple times. We talked about that last time on the show. And it doesn't appear has any involvement in anything as well. And so I'm not saying that that's the situation with the neighbors. I'm going to call them the neighbors because I think they live relatively close. However, it's I'm interested to know what kind of information they had to go down on this road or route. Now, I was thinking about this, today, and actually I was talking with Steve from True Crime Web a little bit earlier today, and we were kind of bouncing ideas back and forth. And one of the things was that, from what I understand, is they don't have like a vehicle on camera, right? And that was one of the things that I found interesting about his direction of travel when he was walking up to the front door. That may have been, he may not have been coming from that direction. He may have walked a certain way, so that way it appeared that he was coming from left if you're looking from the vantage point of the camera, versus maybe perhaps he approached from the right but looped around knowing that there was a camera there. He flashes the light. I think he knows that there's a step there. I wonder if maybe perhaps they had some video of the other guy dropping off a package, and maybe perhaps he trips over the step at some point, and that's why they're like, hey, he turns on the light, he's aware of the step, this guy tripped over the step. I'm not saying that was part of it or not, but I wouldn't be surprised. But this guy living in the neighborhood, what does that tell us? To me, I think that tells us that they really truly don't have somebody leaving the area. They don't have a vehicle leaving that neighborhood. By the next time we talk, I'll bring up some apps. We'll look at the area. We'll trace and outline some things to see, how somebody can get in and out of that area without being caught on camera. Now, there's a couple of things that could have happened there. One, did they get lucky? Or two, did they case out the spot? Now, I'm assuming that law enforcement is thinking that they thought the latter, that they're casing out the spot, which makes sense when they've recently gone out and asked for footage from neighbors from a longer extended period of time now, right? And so you have that extension. So I'm assuming their assumption is, and this is just all deduction here, that they don't have this vehicle leaving, and that they're thinking that this guy didn't just get lucky, that he's not on some sort of camera, and he must have cased out the spot before. Now, a neighbor driving around in the neighborhood, could that be one of the reasons why they searched his house? Because he drove by there a lot? Maybe. But if that's the case, that means that they really don't have much outside of possibly some DNA. Now, the fact that they went and swatted somebody leads me to believe that the DNA that they have, if they have DNA that belongs to the perpetrator, this person's not in CODIS. Right? So this person is not committed a crime before, or at least not gotten caught, and where they had to submit their DNA. All right, so now, me personally, I also think that the whole ransom stuff, I'm not sold on that being the actual kidnappers, and I'll tell you why. The reason behind that is because they go and they contact the media instead of contacting the family. Now, perhaps, they left her phone there. They didn't take it, right? Because it disconnected from the pacemaker. So now perhaps maybe there was a plan to kidnap. We did see some blood. Maybe something did happen, and maybe Miss Guthrie didn't survive, from one place to another, and they had no means of contacting the family at this point because they didn't have her phone. They didn't have anything. Maybe that's the situation, and that's why they went to the media, and they waited a few days because they panicked because it didn't go as planned. And I'm saying they because I think with both search warrants, it appears that there was multiple people who they were, law enforcement was kind of looking at, right? Or at least spoke to. Now, Does that mean, is that because, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but is that because they believe that somebody helped them out and maybe perhaps, you know, had some sort of vehicle that got them out of the area? Because I don't think she's walking very far. You know, she had some mobility issues. She was up there in age, and she had sustained an injury. So she's not going to be walking very far. So somebody either had to have helped him. He had to have parked a vehicle, you know, some sort of distance away. But I definitely think that there's a good possibility that there was more than one person involved in this. Now, perhaps, maybe, you know, and we just got to leave it open because I don't know. But maybe perhaps Miss Guthrie doesn't survive, and they don't know how to get in contact with the family, and so they contact the media in hopes that they can get some sort of payment of some sort. Perhaps. I put it on a like 10% chance that that's a possibility. To me, though, I think that if they went through this much planning and detail and effort and canvassing and everything else, they probably are aware and of how to get a hold of the Guthrie family. Right? I'm sure it's not very difficult to do so. Yet they choose to get a hold of the national media, make this a spectacle, so to speak, almost like a misdirection. But in more so, I think it's somebody trying to take advantage of the situation. You know, there was already one guy that was arrested for doing so. You know, he had texted some of the family members. He was able to find how to get in contact with the Guthrie family. So I'm fairly positive the person that did this would have been able to have contacted the family. And I'm not necessarily certain that they would have been telling, the world, including law enforcement, about the kidnapping. If this was, in fact, a kidnapping, I think that they would want the family to pay up without involving law enforcement. And telling the world automatically involves law enforcement. All right. Serious asks, what do I think that the intruder was doing in the house so long? That's a good question. I'm going to go through the timeline and we'll go through it. I don't know completely, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down piece by piece and hope that if we slow down with it, maybe we can deduce to some answers. All right. So in my opinion, then, them, going after a neighbor says, like I said, the DNA is their only probably piece of evidence that they have at this point, which is a little bit concerning. Now, if, if this guy left his DNA there behind and, it might take a couple of weeks for the whole IgG stuff if he's not in CODIS, but it shouldn't take too long. I hope within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll definitely have some sort of answer as far as who this person is. But at this point, I think I'm very concerned. Now, let's see. Wrong button. I'm going to share the screen real quick. So I want to show some stuff and we'll go through the timeline and everything else in between. But that's, when it comes also to like the family or blaming anybody, the neighbor or whoever, because, I figured out who was the guy that they ended up detaining. Right. It wasn't very difficult to figure that out, but I'm not going to dox the guy. I'm not going to bring him out and do any of those things because that's jumping to conclusions against things that we don't know. Apparently they had some sort of information that would have led them to go to that direction. But also the information didn't pan out to the point where they could keep these people as in custody. And so until they have something that concrete, I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything. You know what I'm saying? Like I had, I think there was somebody in the live chat the last time that we were talking, said something to the effect that if I was a guy that just refused to blame families, I guess because I didn't blame the families in the Brian Koberger case or the families and some of the other cases that I cover. And I was like, it's not just families. I refuse to blame anybody just to blame anybody. It's not what we do here. There's got to be some information, evidence, and I can guarantee you I know a lot less than what law enforcement do, just like you. And so I think it's foolish when people think that they know more than law enforcement and that they have the answers and that they know something that LE doesn't. I think it's funny. But anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. This here is from News Nation. There's a little bit of a timeline here of the recent days. On February 11th, FBI recovers a black glove while searching the roadway near the Guthrie home. No confirmation is made on the glove is related to her disappearance. But it could be. If they have no idea how he got out of the neighborhood and they find this glove, could that be related? Maybe. Now, I've also heard that they found a glove inside of the house as well. And, that one's interesting, which will go down and go back to, his images of what he's wearing, his backpack and stuff like that. Brian Koberger forgot a knife sheath. This guy may have forgotten a glove. He had his backpack really stuffed up. And one of the questions that Steve had asked me was, if this guy's going in there to kidnap somebody, why does he have a backpack filled to the brim? And it's an interesting question and point. What all could he have had in there? And we'll talk about that. We'll look at the backpack, look at possible motives and stuff like that. Let's see. February 13, rain hits the area, and Guthrie's home, and tribute is displayed outside her residence. SWAT operation by Pima County Sheriff Office 2 miles from Guthrie home leads to 3 people being detained. No arrests were made, law enforcement announced. So that's the most recent thing from them. Let's see what's going on here. Oops, wrong button. Don't want to pay for anything. All right. Who was the suspect in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance? What we know. I've not read this, so you're going to get my live reaction on this. The Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI are still searching for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today anchor Savannah Guthrie. After she went missing 2 weeks ago, they say they're searching for an unidentified person seen in a doorbell camera. Okay, so we know all that. While police activity near the Guthrie house tied to the investigation was reported heading into February 14th, there was no major breaks in the case. As the weekend began, Angelica Carrillo of the Pima County Sheriff's Department said Saturday, February 14th, that investigators are following up on a lead that led to no arrests. Okay, so it was a lead that led them there. So interesting there. Could be a lot of things that are leads that could go in that direction. Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mom of 3, was last seen January 31st and reported missing the following day. Law enforcement officials have said she was abducted from her Tucson home in the scenic Catalina foothills. Law enforcement revealed previously inaccessible new images, February 10th, of a Nest camera at the Guthrie front door. According to Watermark on the released clips, the images of a masked person on the Guthrie porch matched their description of a suspect. The FBI's Phoenix division worked with the private sector partners to recover any images or video footage from Nancy Guthrie's home and that may have been lost, corrupt, or inaccessible due to the variety of factors, including the removal of recording devices. The video was recorded from residential data located in the back-end systems. And so they've upped the reward to, I think it's like 100,000 or so. All right, let's see. Nancy Guthrie disappearance. Sheriff says no arrests, none remain in custody after major operation. What we know, the Pima County SWAT team and FBI executed a search warrant at the Tucson area residence late Friday, approximately 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. At least 3 people were reportedly detained in connection to the operation, but none have been confirmed as suspects. Local authorities and FBI detained a man following a traffic stop in the Culver restaurant parking lot in Tucson in connection to a warrant served on the nearby home. Sources told Fox Digital a gray Range Rover was searched and towed from the parking lot. The FBI released a description of the suspect seen in a mask and gloves tampering with the doorbell camera in the front of Nancy Guthrie's home in the early morning hours on February 1st, around the time she went missing. The suspect is described as a male between 5'9" and 5'10" with an average build and was seen carrying a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack. The FBI has increased the reward to $100,000, leading to the information. Let's see. This just says here, Nanos told Fox News that the man detained in the traffic stop Friday night was a person of interest. They used the term was. I don't know if that's still indicative. And was cooperative. The man who has since been released is believed to be the owner of the gray Range Rover that was searched and towed by authorities. So what does this mean? That they probably have some sort of gray SUV vehicle on camera, seen in the area a couple of times. Maybe a Range Rover. There are other vehicles that kind of are similar. Now, again, this is a rural area that you're running into some of the same problems that you had in the Brian Koberger case when it came to the cameras. A lot of the cameras are going to get a lot of profile pictures of vehicles, the side pictures, because they're from, the residents looking outward, facing towards the street, and the street really, or most of the time, isn't coming towards the residents. The street is going side to side. Was it perpendicular? I think. It's going to cross you, right? And so it's not parallel. So, well, I guess it is. You're looking at the side of the vehicles. You're not going to look at the front. So that could be an issue. You're also looking at a situation. If this guy did this at night, it's going to be hard to determine the color, on certain vehicles. Apparently white can look green or vice versa. And so on black and white images. And so, you're going to have a lot of things you're going to have to overcome when it comes to if this person did some casing at night. But if they were driving around in some sort of Range Rover, in some sort of vehicle like that, it wouldn't be very difficult to figure out if that vehicle, where it was and how far it was driving, the timing cycles. I mean, that thing's going to have a plethora of information once they plug that thing into the computer. Goes on to say 3 other people were detained at a nearby home where FBI executed federal search warrant Friday night were released as well. He is noting that he was not at the scene, but it is standard procedure to allow investigators freedom to conduct the search. Nana said there was no arrest and no sign of Nancy was found. The sheriff added, every day moving forward, there will be a lot of police activity throughout the community, depending on the leads and how they develop. The leads start in the command post and move to the field as needed. So this is where the home was, and this is where Miss Guthrie's home is. Let me do something real quick. And I'm pushing the right buttons. Maybe I'm not. I want to take a screenshot of this. I don't remember how to do it. Yeah, nope. I wanted to get a screen image of this, but I can't. Not very far. I wonder if this vehicle, cut through the residence to avoid traffic or something, on numerous occasions and showed up on the camera system. I'll be honest with you guys. It looks like, this feels very crap showish. I don't want to sound negative, but it doesn't seem good. Let me pull up a couple of things real quick. All right. Okay, so I wanted to go back and just kind of, like I said, slow down. Let's go back. Windows button, Shift and S. That's what I was pressing. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I wasn't. Thank you, Afton. All right, so this is the approximate timeline. So at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell disconnects. Now we know that that's this dude doing this number at 1:47. So this is before he made entry. We can assume at 1:47 is when he finally has the ability to take the doorbell off of the wall. So 1:47, he still needs to get inside the house. At this point, I don't know, don't appear based on the video that we've seen that he's made any attempt up to that point to make entry into the home. Up to that point, it just appears he was trying to facilitate a means so that he could take the doorbell camera off. So some of this time that we're looking at could be him trying to make entry. Okay, 2:12 a.m. software detects a person on camera. No video available. No subscription. Now, from what we know is that there could have been an animal, right? That's what I think the sheriff had mentioned. So this leads me to believe that this is most likely a video from outside. Now, did he leave and come back? Because the pacemaker app shows a disconnection of the phone at 2:28. So that is, that's a good amount of time. What is that, like 16 minutes later is when the phone disconnects from the pacemaker. And I think he had to get about 30 feet away from it for it to do so. So that's around the time that she has physically left the property. Now at 2:12, if this is an outside camera that is capturing somebody, is it him going back outside, or is it somebody else coming to help? Now, he took off the camera there, and was his intention with the brush or the plants that he pulled out, was his intention to get it behind the doorbell camera to pull it off? Maybe. That makes sense. Was his intention just to cover the camera? Possibly. I'd probably lean more towards the first one, that he was trying to utilize it. Kind of interesting that he had a backpack fully stuffed to the brim and forgot to bring something to take off the doorbell camera. Right. Should also say a little bit about what tools he may not have inside of that backpack. Right. Because what he has in there is important. But what he doesn't have in there is also, so I would assume that there's not a fine string, perhaps no knives, perhaps no screwdrivers, stuff like that to pry, to get the thing off. Nothing that could create a wedge, so that way he can take the doorbell camera off, which is something that he would want to try to get done quickly, because that doorbell camera, if it's monitored by Ring or monitored by a paid service, that could be an issue. Right now, I don't think she had a paid service. Do we think that the person got lucky, or do we think that the person knew that? For him to know that, I think he'd have to be really close. And I don't think that that's the case. So I think he may have gotten lucky on this one. All right, so a lot of time here. Now, the other option is that he couldn't get in from the front. All right, so let's just say at 1:47, it disconnects the camera. Now he can't get in, and so he walks around the back of the house, and then he's captured at 2:12. If that's the case, that could be why the back door was left open. I heard rumors that the back door was left open. I'm not sure if that's 100%. I thought maybe that was a bit of a distraction. You know that that they at least attempted to leave through the front door because there's blood from Miss Guthrie at the front of the door. And so if this guy had made entry into the house, I mean, he's still in there quite a bit of time. He's still in there quite a bit of time. Now let's look at the images. His gloves looked super, super packed. Like he's wearing gloves on top of gloves almost. So this was the plants zipped up to the T. I think he's wearing glasses here. I mean, the size of his eyes, they look kind of distorted. That's a thing that happens when you wear glasses. All right, so you know what, let's look at the video. Let's pull up the video, and I want to see something. All right, so his backpack is all the way full. Now, I want to know what you guys' opinion here is. Why is his backpack full to the brim, right? Because one of the things that has really just kind of bothered me about this case is like motive. What was the objective here? You know, was this a robbery gone wrong? Was this, something more nefarious? Did he have something more nefarious planned? And he has some sort of, Dexter kit inside of that. Does he have a change of clothes? But if he has a change of clothes, what is he planning on doing? All right. If he's got a change of clothes, I'm assuming he's expecting to get messy. It doesn't seem like that was the case inside of the house. I know that there's blood outside of the house, but why, what is he doing? Why is his backpack full? What is in his backpack? Now, could he have taken, I guess maybe a hood for Nancy? Duct tape, zip ties, things that you would expect, like what Ted Bundy would carry with him if he was going to kidnap somebody. I don't necessarily know if that's going to fill up the backpack like that. What do y'all think is stuffed in there? Yeah, I can zoom in on the door. Let's see. I think there it is. And so he walks up and he's looking like over here at first. And then he comes here. It definitely does look like he was yanking, like utilizing them to get behind. Like what I'm saying by them is the stems here of these plants. Like he was trying to utilize them to get behind the doorbell and yank it. Because there's so many leaves on the ground. If I had to take a guess, he tried to open this up, couldn't, and gave up, and is on camera at 2:12 walking around or making entry some other way, maybe perhaps through the back door. That's my best guess right now on this time frame. Excuse me. So he's looking at something. He's looking at the door. Almost to the almost like he's not. I don't know, almost like he's not prepared for it, which is interesting. You would have expected him to be prepared for this door. And if it's him moving around the back at 212, and him giving up on trying to make entry into the front door, again, not very well planned. Now he makes his hand into a fist which is interesting. I don't understand why he's doing that. Now this is really dark. If he's trying to cover his face or whatever, I don't understand why he doesn't open up his hands, but he makes a fist. So right here, I think he's yanking on it. I think he's pulling down on it. And he's yanking on it. He's got the flashlight in his mouth, and he flashes it on the ground right there so he can get a brief look. You see a shadow right here? There's a shadow on the ground as he's walking. So whether it's the moon or there's some sort of light emitting his shadow on the ground. So it's not as dark as some people have been saying, like it was pitch black. It wasn't. There wouldn't be a shadow on the ground. See, as he's walking out. Flashes the light right there. The light is on. Pulls some shrub. He's got the light in his mouth, and he's trying to utilize that too. So a flashlight that goes into his mouth. He's put a lot of thought into this. This isn't something that he came up with fairly quickly. He thought about the fact that he is going to need to use his hands. I don't think this is the first time he's broken into somebody's house. Now, maybe this is the first time he's gone further than that, but I don't think this is the first time that he's gone into somebody's house. That move is interesting. Because that's a lot of thought to go into. All right, I'm gonna need a flashlight, but I'm gonna need to use my hand, so I'm gonna get a mouth flashlight. I don't know. It's kind of. I don't know. I don't think this is the first time this guy's broken into somebody's home. I think there's been some escalation. So this is when he walks up. He walks straight to the door. He's looking straight at the door, covered to a T. And he's got the holster in a wrong spot. Now, one of the things that me and Steve were talking about earlier today was Like, why would he take her? Like, what's the purpose of it, right? Let's just say that like he went in there and I mean, the only thing I can think, one of the things that I can think of is that he felt the need to, right? Because scratched him. Maybe this was, I hate to say it, but there are some sickos out there, some type of sexually motivated crime, and there was some sort of DNA. I'm not saying that that's there, but if that was something that may have been there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be anything like full force penetration or anything like that, but if he, I don't know, grabbed her, took it. I think there's a glove that may have been found inside of the house. So if he took his glove off and like grabbed her arm or something, maybe he felt that his DNA could be passed on, and that he had to remove her. An abduction, for ransom, which I don't necessarily think so. It feels so weird. Everything doesn't sit right as far as who the ransom notes went to, the timing, how they were addressed, etc. It seems like somebody trying to benefit off of the scam. Why else would he take her? I don't know. Because let's just say this is a robbery gone wrong, and she hurts herself or something. Like trying to get away, she falls down and hurts herself. That's why the blood's outside. Maybe she succumbs to that injury. Why take her? You got blood outside. It's not like it's gonna appear like she left on her own. The other thing is, like, what's the plan to leave, right? Like, you would think he would have taken her in her car, dumped the car somewhere. That way he gets out of the area. Let's just say he parks a vehicle in the middle of nowhere, right? And then he goes to her place, takes her, rendezvous with the vehicle in the middle of nowhere, and then lights her vehicle on fire, right? No, he didn't do that. Her vehicles weren't taken. And again, it doesn't appear that this is the weird part, right? It doesn't appear that law enforcement have a vehicle leaving the area. At least they're not telling us. Some folks are saying maybe perhaps he had a mask on and she recognized his voice. Maybe that's the reason why he had to take her, because it was somebody that she knew. That's a possibility. That's a good possibility. Somebody went there to try to commit a robbery and went south, and she recognized him and he felt the need that he had to take her. That's possible. Now, her recognizing him, does that, that could be a number of people. I would assume the persons that are closest to her circle would be easily, what's the word I'm looking for? Easy to figure out if they had something to do with it. So they found DNA, right? And one of the gloves inside, supposedly there's some DNA inside the house. Well, I'm sure that they're DNA swabbing the family and everybody close, things of that nature. So they wouldn't need to do a family tree for those guys. They could just get it, ask for it, get a warrant and get it, surreptitiously get it, by taking the trash or whatever. Wouldn't be that difficult to do, right? They don't have to do an IgG to figure that one out. So the fact that they're going on these almost fishing expeditions to detain people leads me to believe that they don't have much more than that. And they're trying to exhaust all their options so that way they can even maybe perhaps utilize the FBI's resources into it. But, could it be somebody she knew from somewhere else? Now, I would assume that maybe perhaps this would be somebody that's, if it is somebody that she knows, it's probably not too close. Um, not somebody that the family would know, maybe somebody casual, somebody they ran into from here to there. Um, I think that if it was somebody that was extremely close, they probably would have been questioned. Somebody, maybe they meet up every now and then, or seen from time to time on on their normal activities, maybe possibly on purpose, on that guy's part, whether that be, because I know she's immobile and stuff like that, but I know that if they had any type of work or crews working in the area, maybe they had some sort of interaction, or somebody from a recreational place, like, I don't know, a restaurant that she may go to or frequent, or a church or something of that nature that she goes to, or went to, that maybe perhaps her family don't know everybody that's there. But the closer they are towards her circle, the easier it is to kind of prove these things. So given how much time it's been, I'm leaning more and more towards this being somebody that is not necessarily in the inner close circle of the Guthries. Somebody a little bit further away. Let's see. Now, the gun in the front, that's an interesting position. Now, is that because they're inexperienced? Is that because they have a issue, maybe a hip issue or something, they don't like wearing it, it's uncomfortable on their hip? That would also kind of lead you to believe an inexperience aspect to it. Which kind of, like I said, there's like a mixture of inexperience and maybe perhaps somebody who's done this before. Maybe this is the first time he's taken this step to do something further than breaking into somebody's house. Could the guy have been hired by somebody from the inner circle? It's possible. In today's day and age, look at what these people are asking for, right? Bitcoin, so it's not traceable and stuff like that. But murder for hire type situations are typically, you got to hire them. There's some sort of paper trail. There's a financial aspect that you can follow. There's a lot of things that go into that. I would say possible, not likely, but possible. Again, you would be, looking at the activity of the person that you thought may have had the motive to hire. I don't know. Put a couple questions, guys. I'm gonna answer your questions for the next few minutes, and then I'm gonna call it a show. My back's not feeling great. Let's see. Daniel, look past the guy, zoom in to be headlights below the house lights. It's a road front of our house. Like right here on this image. Like back there. Let me see something real quick. Because that's on the let me look up the images real quick. That could be. Or up here. Right there. The way they carry the gun screams amateur. Amateur, yeah, at potentially going above, theft, breaking into somebody's house. I definitely do think that. Let's see. Let's see. Those lights behind the gray appear to be pretty far away over the other hill. Yeah, way back there, there's some headlights. Those lights are pretty far, but there does appear to be like something right here. That doesn't look too far away and doesn't look as bright. Do you think he's looking for something on the porch that he's expected to be there? He's looking at the same place on the right and the left, and then grab the flowers. He does look to the left, then looks to the right. But he's not looking down. He's looking straight. It's weird. Interesting. The lower ones, or the bright ones, are the house lights. I'm assuming the ones you were talking about right here. Creepy stuff, man. Creepy stuff. Did the authorities look into the card left next to the door from a social worker in regards to elder abuse? I saw that. That was interesting too. I don't understand what it's for yet. It appears like it could be something pretty serious. This is all I have of it. Well, this is all I could find, at least. Why have your backpack filled up before going in? Well, I was talking to Steve about this, right? And I said, is it possible that maybe he had some things that he had taken from other places? But I don't think there's been any reports of break-ins or thefts in the neighborhood. So I doubt that that's the case. What he could have, I don't know. It does appear that whatever it is, like for it to be stuffed like that and not to have like hard edges and things like that, it seems like whatever is in there is fabric, or a tarp, something that can take the full shape of the backpack without leaving like boxed edges. It's not like there's a box in there or anything like that. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can pull it back up. Yep, the ones at the stop sign at the road. Yeah. They're pretty interesting. What way is the stock of the gun? Pull from the left or the right? It'd be pulled from the right. So this guy's right-handed. You would assume, at least. Or I would assume. Thank you. I appreciate that. A change of clothes. But if he had a change of clothes, how's it seem? How you doing, Barbara? If he had a change of clothes, what is he doing? Because, like, if the objective is a burglary, I mean, unless okay, so unless he thinks that if he runs, that he may need to run away and change his clothes somewhere. And I guess maybe that's a possibility, right? Yeah, he took a change of clothes in case he gets seen, somebody sees him and he has to run away, and they're going to be looking for a guy dressed like this, so he's going to change into something else. Or is it because he's going to commit a nefarious crime and, doesn't want to transfer things back into his vehicle, like, per se, when we talked about Brian Coburn. That's kind of where we're at on this one. I don't. And then why take her? Why take her? These are the questions that are boggling my mind right now. There was still a still pic of a person with no backpack preceding this video of a person with a backpack. People say it's two different people. What say you? Is it the same person or not? I've not seen it. But I'd have to check it out. Let's see. Some people think that the dark under the white shirt may be a tattoo. Right here. I had seen that as well. I don't know. No, I've not seen this. Have y'all discussed the arrest in Scottsdale? 2 teens hired by 2 strangers to kidnap 3 people for $66 million in Bitcoin. I've not seen that. Let me verify that information. I'm not aware of it. So let's see what's going on. 2 teens arrested in Scottsdale. Attempted kidnapping.
Being with us live at 5, I'm Scott Hennessy. Beth and CJ are off tonight. 2 teens from San Luis Obispo County were arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona, accused of a home invasion and a plot to steal millions in cryptocurrency. News Channel reporter Jared Zinn is live in San Luis Obispo. Jared, investigators say these teens were recruited for this shocking crime online.
Good evening, Scott. That's right. One of the teens lives in SLO and attended San Luis Obispo High School. The other lives in Morro Bay. And the teens told Arizona authorities after their arrest that the two had only just met. Ari Parker lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. At first, he didn't think much of this blue car in the background of his Ring camera footage from Saturday.
I had no idea they were connected to the crime that happened here.
Just down the street, SLO County teens Jackson Sullivan and Skylar Lapel, disguised as delivery drivers, allegedly forced their way into a home. Investigators say they violently restrained 2 adults and demanded $66 million in cryptocurrency. A third resident managed to call police.
The police work was really impressive.
I ain't gonna lie, this is pretty crazy. Now, I don't know if they're connected. But it is pretty eerily similar. But yeah, the guys look kind of different. The guy that, with the mask with the facial hair looks to be a little bit older than what these teens are. But it doesn't mean that somebody can't, be susceptible to something or doing something for money. But this is pretty crazy.
They were pounding the pavement, doing old school gumshoe police detective work, knocking on doors, letting neighbors know what was happening.
The teens fled and after a pursuit hit a dead end and were arrested. Once in custody, the teens told Arizona authorities they had only just met each other.
Many of them have lived here for 15, 20 years, and they mentioned that this is the first time they could remember something like this happening.
Unidentified characters known as Red and 8 allegedly sent Sullivan and Lapel messages on the app Signal, telling them to go to Arizona with funds to purchase supplies so they could pose as delivery drivers.
It's certainly eye-opening.
All right, so could something like this, if somebody were to have done something, could somebody like this, would it be difficult to catch? It definitely would be, because there's no connection here, right? Now, you're using teens in this scenario. They're going to make a lot of mistakes and stuff like that. But if you use the right person, I'm not saying that's the case here, but this is weird. This is weird. And very, very similar. But yeah, if you have somebody doing, that's why there's like a lot of unsolved like murders and stuff like that. And people think that there's like a good amount of serial killers out there, and there probably is. A lot of that is because, and a lot of, I think, I don't remember what it was, but a lot of people think that there might be like a lot of like trucker serial killers because, they go from different places. There's no connection to the towns that they're in. And, no real connection to the towns that they're in. Oftentimes, police departments don't talk to each other. So there's a lot of things that work in the favor of the perpetrator so that they can get away with the crime. Especially if, your targets are, if you end up targeting individuals who work in a certain field, so to speak, and which is not the case here. But in this case, if there was some sort of weird, thing going on like this, where they were targeting certain persons' wealth, and something happens, and if there's no real connection there, that could be very difficult to navigate until you get that DNA in. It's a lot easier when you can discover motive and stuff like that. But that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy.
And it's also incredible the way that different pieces of evidence will be pieced together.
Officials at San Luis Obispo High School have confirmed that Jackson Sullivan was a student. From what we can gather online, he played sports and wrote articles for the student newspaper. The teens are being held in Arizona and will be charged as adults on multiple felony charges, including kidnapping, burglary, criminal impersonation, and felony flight.
There was a situation, I mentioned this a while back, that there was this like ring of individuals who were like stealing from like high-end wealthy individuals. Some of these were like football players. I think Joe Burrow got hit, Patrick Mahomes got hit. Some other players did as well. It's not the first time. There was a cornerback, I think he played for Washington some years back, who ended up getting shot and losing his life because of a burglary that occurred in his house. Some kind of orchestrated situation like that. I don't know. This is pretty weird. This is weird. And neither student has facial hair. No, but it's not necessarily somebody hired these students to do something. It's more, did somebody else hire someone else to do something too? You know, do you think that these two students that don't know each other, apparently, according to them, so we'll see, but we take this article at face value for what it is, right? Apparently, they're saying that they met on something and there was an app and a bunch of other things, and this was the first time they met each other. You know, do you think that these are the only two people that they've contacted to do something like this? Maybe. Or maybe they've contacted others. And like I said, you got these young kids, they're going to make a lot of mistakes, but if you get the right person, that could be a different story. Let's see. The number of sketchy dudes getting caught on camera close to Nancy's house is disheartening. Yeah. It definitely is a weird case. But I'm going to keep on to it, guys. If there's any breaking news, I'll break it down. I'm going to try to get on tomorrow night. We'll see what happens, how I'm feeling. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That's going to do it for me tonight. I appreciate everybody here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys have a great night. I'll be back probably tomorrow, especially if there's anything new that pops up. I'll see you guys then. Peace out, y'all. Till next time.